Sonentie International. I am Nolin Ebel Ame, and my sign language interpreter is Courage Ogeriahi. Let's take the headlines. United States acknowledges insecurity in parts of Nigeria, not a religious affair. Federal government attributes the recent decline in food prices across Nigerian markets to an increase in local agricultural production. Plus, Army Colonel Michael Randrerina sworn in as Madagascar's president. And here is the news. The United States has acknowledged that insecurity in parts of Nigeria is not a religious affair, describing terrorism as a global concern which requires collaborations of countries of the world to tackle. Senior advisor to United States President Donald Trump for Arab and African Affairs, Masad Bulus, visited President Bola Tinubu in Rome, Italian capital, to discuss various issues bordering on security in Nigeria and Africa. State House correspondent Musbadan Wahab reports that the meeting behind closed doors focused on countering terrorism and maritime security in the Gulf of Guinea. The U.S. presidential advisor recognized the effort of Nigerian government under President Tinubu in the fight against insecurity and promised continuous collaboration of U.S. in the area of information and technology sharing in this direction.
What's happening today in the Sahel region and in the Lake Chad basin is of extreme concern to all of us, not just people in the sub-region, but to the entire world, to Europe and the United States and the entire world. It's a very serious concern, and we're working towards combating it, and we will be cooperating and continue to cooperate towards combating this serious problem in the region.
On an allegation of religious persecution in Nigeria by a U.S. lawmaker, the envoy stated that the insecurity occasioned by terrorism and banditry goes beyond religious sentiment, but an issue demanding collective effort to end.
Those who know the terrain well know that terrorism has no color and no religion and no tribe. People of all religions and all tribes are dying as a result of terrorist acts, but it's very unfortunate. We even know that Boko Haram and ISIS are killing more Muslims than Christians. So people are suffering from all sorts of backgrounds. This is not specifically targeted about one group or the other. However, any loss of life is too many. One is too many, and we should work together in partnership to put an end to this.
In the meantime, Nigeria has reaffirmed its commitment to advancing South-South and Triangular Cooperation (SSTC) to transform agri-food systems and promote sustainable development across the global South. Speaking at the World Food Forum's Ministerial Dialogue in Rome, Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, emphasized the critical role of SSTC in driving agricultural innovation and food security. The dialogue themed SSTC as a catalyst for agri-food system transformation convened ministers from developing nations to share experiences and strategize on collaborative efforts. Kyari highlighted Nigeria's successful partnerships with FAO and China, which have facilitated technology transfers, farmer training, aquaculture growth, and the creation of regional multi-service extension centers.
One is the National Coordination and Governance, that is to establish a national South-South Cooperation Steering Committee which will be led by the Ministry of Agriculture and Food Security, with representation from the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ministry of Budget and Economic Planning, the Country Office of FAO and other United Nations agencies, and of course the private sector and the academia.
In other development, from disease preparedness to data-driven care, experts at the World Health Summit in Berlin agree that Africa's health security begins with national action, while the WHO Assistant Director for Health Emergency Intelligence, Dr. Chukwe Ihekwazu, wants African countries to build their capacities to prevent disease outbreaks and respond to humanitarian crises when they occur. The Executive Director of Vital Strategies, Dr. Marianne Atigbet, highlights the importance of reliable local data in preventing and treating cancer in Africa. Basi Taikbang reports.
Ihekwazu emphasized that the continent's preparedness depends on early warning surveillance, investment in laboratories, and strong community health structures. According to him, lessons from COVID-19 and other epidemics show that Africa can no longer rely on external interventions, but must strengthen its own response and recovery systems.
So every country has to develop its own capacity. Firstly, to prevent these threats from happening, the infectious disease threats. But when we can't prevent them, to have the capacity to detect them early, respond early.
Mary Ann Itiebe stresses that reliable country-level information is key to preventing, diagnosing, and treating diseases such as cancer more effectively.
Especially for a country like Nigeria, we know that there are likely big differences within country of how cancer affects people, and we need to have state-level data, subnational data, to be able to develop the right types of national plans to address this issue.
The World Health Summit, with over 70 stations and 400 speakers, serves as a platform for constructive dialogue and international cooperation. The summit brings together policymakers, researchers, and health advocates from around the globe to discuss ways to transform health systems and strengthen global health governance. This year's theme, Taking Responsibility for Health in a Fragmenting World, focuses on equity, resilience, and innovation as the world prepares for future health challenges. From Berlin, Basi Taikbang, NTA News.
Thank you, Basi. From Berlin, we take you to Washington, D.C., where Nigeria has continued to hold several bilateral meetings with development partners and international financial organizations at the ongoing annual meeting of the World Bank and the IMF. Mukbalang Dakok in Washington, D.C. reports that the Minister of State for Finance, Doris Uzoka Anite, says the engagements have been both impactful and productive, adding that government is working to ensure Nigerians feel the benefits of ongoing economic reforms, which have been commended by both the World Bank and the IMF.
Within a very short time, we see that translating to more job creation, more social investments, more growth in even private investment. Access to capital will improve, cost of doing business in Nigeria will drop, cost of capital also begins to drop. The central bank has started dropping their monetary policy rate, which is a positive again. So I think it's everything is looking good.
The Nigerian delegation is also advocating for increased access to finance for Nigerian entrepreneurs, reduction in the cost of capital, and measures to stimulate job creation across key sectors of the economy.
It is increasing its budgetary provision to different sectors of the economy. Demand-driven job growth begins to take effect, which means as spending is growing, people will take up the skills to be able to provide the services that are required in those sectors of the economy.
Meanwhile, Nigeria has signed a memorandum of understanding with the Bank of Angola for bilateral technical cooperation. Mukblank Dakok reports that the MOU in Washington, D.C., signed by the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Olayemi Michael Cardoso, and the governor of the National Bank of Angola, Manuel Thiago Diaz, is part of efforts to deepen bilateral cooperation and technical exchange between Nigeria and Angola. The objectives of this MOU are to establish a bilateral forum for the reciprocal exchange and sharing of technical assistance between the two authorities to enhance capacity in the execution of their respective central bank functions, to cooperate and collaborate in the cross-border supervision of authorized institutions and exchange of cybersecurity information, as well as to provide for licensing, ongoing supervision, resolution, planning and implementation of resolution measures for cross-border financial establishments, among others.
Opportunity for us to strengthen, build in some cases, strengthen in other cases, regional understanding and regional cooperation. So I'm very, very, very pleased, and I believe that this is really a landmark for both organizations and for both countries.
Elsewhere, authorities in Senegal have received the long-awaited official report on the 1944 massacre of African Second World War soldiers by French forces at the Thiorio military camp near Dakar. Plus, Army Colonel Michael Randrerina, sworn in as Madagascar's president on Friday, just days after a military power grab that sent former President Andry Rajoelina fleeing the country. Chikunonson Abweze has the details.
The document presented to President Bashiru Diomaye Faye seeks to honor the victims' memory and foster shared historical recognition among affected nations. Commissioned in April 2024, the report is the result of rigorous research by a committee of experts tasked with shedding light on circumstances leading to the incident. The massacre followed the repatriation of about 1,600 West African soldiers to Dakar in November 1944 after their capture by Germany during the war. The soldiers, including Senegalese and others from the region, were protesting unpaid wages and unequal treatment compared to the white soldiers. Official French records at the time reported at least 35 deaths, but historians estimate the toll could be as high as 400. In other news, Army Colonel Michael Randrerina was on Friday sworn in as Madagascar's president some days after a military coup toppled former President Andry Rajoelina. The Army Colonel, who led the CAPSAT army unit that mutinied and joined anti-government protests at the weekend, read out the presidential oath at a ceremony at the country's top court in the capital, Antananarivo. Today marks a historic turning point for our country, with a people driven by the desire for change and a deep love for their homeland. We joyfully open a new chapter in the life of our nation, he said. He stressed that he will work hand in hand with all the driving forces of the nation to draft a fine constitution and to agree on new electoral laws to guide future elections and referendums. The ceremony, presided over by the head of the Constitutional Court, was attended by military officers, politicians, representatives of the Gen Z youth-led protest movement, and several foreign delegations. Chukunonson Abweze, NTN News.
Kenya held a state funeral for revered opposition leader Raila Odinga in Nairobi. Odinga, 80, died from a suspected heart attack at a health clinic in southern India on Wednesday, triggering outpouring of grief across his home country and beyond. Again, Chikunonson Abweze reports.
President William Ruto, alongside dignitaries who attended the funeral at the Nyayo Stadium, paid glowing tribute to Odinga's legacies.
Every once in a generation, there comes a leader whose impact transcends their moment, whose courage inspires change, and whose vision shapes destinies. My brother, Raila Amolo Odinga, was one such leader.
The late opposition leader's widow urged people across the East African nation to mourn his passing in peace.
One thing that I know that Raila stood for and keep on repeating is that we need peace in our nation, we need peace in our homes. And peace will not survive in a situation, in a chaotic situation.
Odinga's body will be conveyed to Western Kenya, his family's home region, where more huge crowds are expected on Saturday before a private burial service on Sunday. Meanwhile, reports say dozens were seriously injured at the event as crowds rushed to see his coffin. This is coming a day after at least 3 people were killed when security forces opened fire to disperse a crowd that had gathered to see Odinga's body in a separate ceremony. Chukunonsonwa Bweze, NTA News.
This is the news on NTA International. It's time to take a break. More stories when we return. Please stay tuned. Thank you for staying with us. The federal government has attributed the recent decline in food prices across Nigerian markets to a surge in local agricultural production, the release of hoarded food stocks, and enhanced coordination between federal and state interventions to stabilize supply. The Minister of Agriculture and the Minister of Livestock Development stated this at joint press briefing in Abuja. Musa Babaliu has more.
Recent figures released by the National Bureau of Statistics indicate that food inflation in Nigeria dropped significantly to 16.87% in September 2025 from 21.87% in August. Key contributors to the price drop included lower costs for maize, grains, beans, millet, potatoes, fresh tomatoes, and eggs. The Minister of State for Agriculture, Alusabi Abdullahi, and the Minister of Livestock Development, Mukhtar Idi Meha, addressed the public on the major achievements in food production and livestock development. Sabi Abdullahi stated that government's intervention and the President's clear mandate on food security have significantly contributed to the decline in food inflation.
We injected a large volume, almost close to 500,000 metric tons or more of wheat, and including maize, cassava, and all the other commodities that we promoted.
In the area of livestock, Mukhtar Idi Meha emphasized that government is determined and sincere in addressing the farmers' hardest crisis, which will further boost productivity nationwide.
There is a convergence between agriculture and livestock. You talk of cotton, we need cotton seed cake for animal fattening. You talk of cassava, we need cassava beans, it's animal fodder. You're talking of soy, we need that. You are talking of sugarcane, we need the bagasse, we need the molasses. So in every region where the agriculture ministry is going to have plantations of these crops, we are going to have large ranches there to take opportunity of that convergence. And that is the way to go. By the time these things happen, we are no longer going to talk about farmer clashes.
As part of the ceremony marking World Food Day 2025, the Minister of State for Agriculture presented farming equipment and inputs to farmers groups and schools. Musa Baba Aliyu, NTA News.
In other news, to actualize the vision of increasing enrollment, ensuring equity and guaranteeing quality of care for all Nigerians, the National Health Insurance Authority, NHIA, gathered self-paying agencies to educate them on health insurance reforms and the importance of prompt remittance of premiums. Uche Ugochukwu reports that all is an effort for Nigeria to attain universal health coverage.
Attended to get the right drugs at the right time.
What is internationally accepted, you use unbranded drugs because of the cost attached to it. And that does not mean that the unbranded drugs are fake. We must disabuse the minds of our enrollees and Nigerians at large.
The need for institutions to remit their premium for better insurance services was harped, and participants got the message.
How we arrive at rates of our computation, we just realized that there are some things missing, and we are going to correct that. And the time of remittance, we do remit ours quarterly, but he did emphasize that it should be monthly. So we try to tie it together with our salary so that we remit every month.
To bridge trust gaps, NHIS says it has developed service level agreements being signed by service providers through the HMOs to ensure prompt and quality care for enrollees. It works to improve enrollee experience, enhance awareness, and integrate health insurance into national social safety nets to protect citizens from out-of-pocket health expenditure. Uche Ugochukwu, NTA News.
The federal government has launched a mandatory training program, MTP, for newly appointed chief executive officers, CEOs, of federal parastatals and agencies, set to begin on Monday, October 20, 2025, at the Administrative Staff College of Nigeria, ASCON, in Topo Badagry, Lagos State. The opening session will be attended by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, and the head of the Civil Service of the Federation, Didi Esther Wilson-Jack, signaling the government's commitment to fostering unified and effective leadership in the public service. A statement by Eno Olutu, Director of Press and Public Relations at the Office of the Head of the Civil Service of the Federation, the training underscores President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's emphasis on aligning leadership with the renewed hope agenda. Minister of Environment Balarabe Abbas Lawal has charged the West African Science Service Center on Climate Change and Adapted Land Use to the forthcoming Maiden International Conference on Climate Change in Nigeria to dispel misconceptions and deepen public understanding of its impact. Receiving the delegation in Abuja, the minister reaffirmed that climate change is real and stressed the need for nations to acknowledge its realities and take decisive steps to safeguard the planet and secure the future of humanity. He disclosed that plans are underway to incorporate climate change studies into the national school curriculum to equip young Nigerians with the knowledge to drive climate action from an early age.
Gradually, it is becoming a catastrophe, a global catastrophe that requires a global attention. And I believe that the conference we're organizing is one of the attention that is required for people to understand that climate change exists and we must address it squarely.
We're seeking this audience less than a week before the event. Number one, to say a big thank you once again for accepting to host this maiden edition of the WASCAL International Conference on Climate Change and Just Energy Transition. And then to extend officially an invitation to you to chair the high-level opening ceremony.
Leader of the delegation, Professor Emmanuel Ramde, said preparations for the conference are in top gear, with participation expected from international partners, including the European Union, the Office of the Vice President, and several foreign diplomatic missions. In a world increasingly driven by technology, public servants must be equipped with the ability to use digital tools and platforms effectively. Hamman Jabani reports that this was the position of stakeholders at the Bureau of Public Service Reforms in collaboration with the Federal Capital Territory Administration and Budget Foundation, capacity building program aimed at enhancing the skills of public servants on the role of technology in improving service delivery.
Only simplifies administrative tasks, but also helps reduce paperwork, minimize errors, and save time. With digital literacy, civil servants can perform their duties more efficiently, leading to a faster and more reliable public service system. With the theme AI-driven reforms, strengthening public sector innovation and accountability, the workshop brought together civil servants from across ministries, departments and agencies within the Federal Capital Territory to explore how artificial intelligence and digital tools can reshape governance processes and make public institutions more efficient, transparent and responsive to citizens' needs.
Our citizens must trust that technology is there to empower them, provide information for them. This is why BPSR is continually working with ministries, departments and agencies and non-governmental organizations to promote openness and to guide the adoption of use of technology in providing services.
Artificial intelligence is not a distant concept anymore. It is here, it's reshaping governance, transforming service delivery, and redefining how citizens experience government. Our task is to ensure that these tools amplify human capacity, not replace it.
This training will serve as a veritable platform for digital tools, data analysis, and online platforms to enhance officials' understanding of technology's role in governance, as well as equip officials with skills to effectively communicate with the public.
Stakeholders believe that the digital knowledge will help build a modern, transparent and citizen-centered public service-driven transformation, foster accountability and prepare the public sector for the challenges and opportunities of the digital age. Hamman Jabani, NTA News.
Hamman Jabani's report there concludes the news on NTA International. Thank you so much for watching. I am Nolin Ebel Ame, and my sign language interpreter has been Courage Ogeriahi. Bye for now.